The Sisters of Battle exist so Space Marines look like miracles. That's not my opinion. That's Imperial logistics talking. Watch the propaganda reels. When a sister dies holding a line, the Imperium calls it sacrifice. When a Marine survives the same fight, they call it divine intervention. Same battle, same enemy, different bodies, different narrative. That's the whole game. The Sisters of Battle are regular humans with guns and faith. No genetic enhancement, no extra organs, no acid spit or pain suppressors. Just women who said yes to dying in power armor. And the Imperium puts them right next to 8-foot demigods on purpose. Here's the thing. The contrast isn't accidental. It's the entire point of deployment. You want people to worship Space Marines? Show them what baseline human looks like. Show them a sister taking a bolter round and actually dying from it. Then show them a Marine taking 3 and walking it off like indigestion. Suddenly the Marine isn't just superhuman. He's proof the Emperor loves humanity enough to build angels. And what was the sister? She was the control group in the experiment. Let me show you what this actually looks like on the ground. Armageddon, Third War. Sisters of our martyred lady deploy alongside the salamanders. The orcs are coming in waves. Endless green, screaming, burning. Standard nightmare fuel. A sister named Celestine, not Saint Celestine, different one, holds a choke point for 4 minutes. 4 minutes. That's 173 orcs dead before she runs dry on ammunition. She switches to her chainsword, kills 11 more in melee. Actual hand-to-hand with orcs. Then a knob catches her with a power claw. She dies instantly. Armor crumples inward. The official report calls it valorous sacrifice in the Emperor's name, may she rest eternal. 20 meters away, a salamander Terminator takes the same knob in close combat, gets hit by the claw twice. Armor cracks. He ignores it. Burns the knob alive. The official report calls it miraculous endurance, proof of the Emperor's divine gene craft at work. Same fight, same enemy, one death, one miracle. That's the propaganda structure working perfectly. But then it got worse, because they film this. They actually film it. The Missionarius Galaxia has embedded recorders in every major battle. Always have, always will. Those recordings become the propaganda reels shown on 1 billion worlds every single day. And here's what they show. Sisters fighting. Sisters dying. Marines arriving. Marines winning. Emperor praised. The editing is surgical. You never see Marines struggling unless a sister already died nearby. You never see a sister surviving impossible odds without a Marine somewhere in frame. The contrast is the product. The deaths are the margin. That's the business model. Now, Space Marines don't need the help. They're already walking nightmares in ceramite shells. A Marine can fight for 72 hours straight, eat his own dead for calories, and still quotient. Their armor is worth a continent's GDP. Their training starts at age 10 in murder monasteries. They spit acid. They have 3 lungs. Their blood clots in seconds. They're designed, purpose-built, weaponized. The sisters? The sisters get a suit of power armor and a crash course in faith. They're recruited at 16, sometimes younger, from the Schola Progenium orphanages across the Imperium. They train for 5 years, maybe 10 if they're in an actually competent order. Then they're issued a bolter, pointed at the nearest heretic, and told to die well. And they do. They die so well. That's the worst part, actually. Because the sisters aren't bad at this. They're exceptional. They win battles outright sometimes. The Order of the Ebon Chalice held Damnos Ridge for 3 weeks without Marine support. 3 weeks. Against Necrons. With nothing but faith, fire, and spite. They actually did it. But the propaganda didn't care. When Marines finally arrived, the reels called it a timely rescue. The sisters were dying in those reels. Heroically, beautifully, with hymns on their lips. Then the Marines show up, and suddenly the Necrons are retreating. Narrative saved. Contrast established. You know what they didn't show? The sisters had already killed the Necron Lord commanding the assault. They'd already collapsed the tomb complex. The Necrons were withdrawing anyway. Marines just mopped up. But the reels cut it differently. Because the reels always cut it the same way. Human struggle. Marine triumph. Emperors will made manifest. Roll credits. Repeat on 10,000 worlds. Here's where it gets worse. The sisters know. They absolutely know what's happening. They're not stupid. They're some of the most educated warriors in the entire Imperium. Many of them are former Schola Progenium drill abbots. They understand imperial logistics, propaganda, the works. They know they're being positioned as expendable theater to make Marines look better, and they choose it anyway. That's the part that actually keeps me up at night, because for the sisters, it's not about survival. It's about the mission beyond the mission. A Sister Superior named Evangeline wrote this in her personal journal before the Vinculus Crusade. "We die so the faithful believe. If our deaths make them trust the angels, we die gladly." She died 3 weeks later, holding a shrine against Alpha Legion infiltrators. Killed 14 of them first. The propaganda reel from that battle shows a Marine captain arriving just too late to save her. The captain stares at her body, swears vengeance, kills the remaining Alpha Legion with righteous fury. The reel ends with him praying over her corpse. The narrator calls her an inspiration. The part they cut? Evangeline had already voxed the captain the enemy positions before she died. She'd done the tactical work. She'd isolated the targets. She'd made it easy. She knew that. She wrote in that same journal, "I am not the sword. I am the sheath that makes them believe in the sword." That's martyrdom as infrastructure. That's propaganda you build into your own bones and accept. And the Imperium loves it, because martyrs are cheaper than ammunition. A dead sister costs nothing but the armor, and you can melt that down for the next one. A dead Marine? That's 100 years of investment gone, genetic material wasted, chapter recruitment numbers affected. So the Imperium does the math. Send the sisters first. Let them establish the baseline human maximum effort. Then send the Marines. Let them exceed it. Film the difference. Distribute the difference. Worship the difference. It's not even subtle. The ecclesiarchy literally has a hymn about it. We are the clay. The lyrics go, "We are the clay, they are the angels, fired in faith, shaped by his will." Metaphor about pottery. Except the pottery is your death, and the kiln is a war zone. They sing this before deployment. They sing it, out loud, knowing exactly what it means. That's not brainwashing, by the way. Brainwashing implies resistance. The sisters wrote the hymn themselves. They chose this. The Order of the Bloody Rose has a saying, "Our blood makes theirs sacred." Translation: we die so Marines seem chosen. We die so the galaxy believes in superhumans. We die so regular humans look at Marines and think the Emperor protects instead of why not us? Because that's the unspoken question the Imperium is terrified of. Why not us? Why don't regular humans get the gene seed? Why don't women get the Astartes treatment? Why is transhuman evolution locked to men recruited from feudal death worlds at age 10? The official answer is biological compatibility. The Astartes process only works on male adolescents. Maybe true. The propaganda answer? You don't need it. You have faith. And look at the sisters. They don't need it either. See how well they fight? See how bravely they die. You could do that too. Just believe harder. That's the sisters' actual strategic function. They're proof you don't need genetic enhancement to serve. You just need faith and a willingness to die on camera. For the Emperor. Forever. Amen. Now let me tell you about Saint Celestine, because she breaks the entire system and they hate it. Celestine doesn't stay dead. She comes back. Every time. Dies, resurrects, keeps fighting. Centuries of this. She's got full-on angelic imagery. Wings of fire. Glowing sword. The works. She's literally unkillable iconography. And the Imperium doesn't know what to do with her. Because she's a sister, she's baseline human, no gene seed. But she won't die permanently. And when she comes back, she's stronger, faster, more effective than most Marines. Suddenly, the propaganda structure collapses. If a sister can be that powerful, what's the Marine selling point? So they make her a saint. Capital S, saint. They literally canonize her while she's still alive. That way, she's not a sister anymore. She's a miracle, a one-off. An exception that proves the rule. See? Sisters are mortal. Celestine is a saint. Different category. Different rules. Narrative saved. Barely. But it's a crack in the foundation. Because if one sister can do it, why not others? Why not gene enhancement for the orders? Why not Astartes-grade armor? Why not equal investment in baseline human potential? The Imperium doesn't answer those questions. It just sends more sisters to more battles. Films more deaths. Because the machine runs on contrast. It runs on the gap between human and transhuman. And the sisters are the human side. They have to be. The propaganda requires a control group. You want to know the really messed up part? The sisters are better at some things than Marines. Actual fact. They're more flexible tactically, they integrate with guard regiments seamlessly. They understand politics. Marines are blunt instruments. Point them at the enemy, they kill it. That's the whole toolkit. Sisters do intelligence work, counterinsurgency, hearts and minds. They're actual combined arms forces with institutional memory. The Order of the Sacred Rose runs entire schools on reclaimed worlds. They teach literacy, medicine, Imperial creed. They build the infrastructure Marines just fight over. They do the boring work of actually holding civilization together. But you won't see that in the propaganda reels, because that would complicate the narrative. Marines kill, sisters die, Emperor wins. That's the three-act structure. Don't add subplots. Because on one hand, they're set up to fail. They're positioned as expendable. They're propaganda tools. On the other hand, they chose this. They wrote their own hymns. They designed their own iconography. They know what they are. They accept what they are. Is that agency or conditioning? Is choosing martyrdom still a choice if you were raised in an orphanage that only taught martyrdom? The Schola Progenium doesn't exactly offer career counseling. Your militarum, commissariat, or sororitas. Pick your flavor of dying. But the sisters who write journals, who question, who understand the propaganda, they stay anyway. Evangeline knew she was a prop. She wrote it down. She died anyway. On purpose. For the mission. That's either the most heroic thing imaginable or the most tragic. Maybe both. Maybe that's the point. Because the Imperium doesn't work on volunteers. It works on volunteers who internalize the propaganda so completely they volunteer. That's the machine. That's the trick. Make them complicit in their own expendability. Call it faith. Sister Superior with a meltagun suddenly moving faster than human reaction speed. That happened. Multiple witnesses, recorded. Hospitaler bringing someone back from clinical death through prayer alone. That happened. Multiple times. Medical records exist. So the faith is real. The Emperor or something is listening. The miracles happen. That's canon. Which makes it worse. Because if the faith is real, if the miracles are real, then maybe they're right. Maybe dying beautifully is the point. Maybe being expendable theater is holy. Maybe the propaganda is prayer. Maybe the sisters looked at the Imperium's math and said, yes, we'll be the proof of human courage. We'll show them what baseline humans can do when we believe hard enough to die well. And if Marines look better by comparison, fine. That's part of the mission. That's the whole mission even. Because Marines keep the Imperium alive. And if our deaths make people worship Marines harder, then we keep the Imperium alive too. That's the logic. That's the faith. That's the trap. Or the truth. Depends on the day. I think about Evangeline's journal a lot. I am not the sword. I am the sheath. She wasn't bitter. She wasn't resigned. She was proud. She chose to be the context that made Marines matter. That's either enlightenment or the most effective brainwashing in human history. I genuinely don't know. What I do know is this. The Imperium needs the sisters to die. Specifically. On purpose. Forever. Because if they stopped dying, if they survived at Marine rates, the whole propaganda structure collapses. Suddenly, you'd have to explain why women don't get gene seed. Why baseline humans are written off as expandable. Why the Imperium's entire military doctrine depends on a caste system with superhumans at the top. The sisters dying keeps those questions buried. Their martyrdom is the apologetics. Their faith is the excuse. And they know it. They choose it. They sing hymns about it. They die well. So when you watch those propaganda reels, when you see a sister falling and a Marine avenging her, remember, she didn't fall by accident. She was positioned to fall. The camera was already there. The Marine was already coming. The entire battle was staged, narratively, to produce that exact moment, that exact contrast, that exact response. Human courage, transhuman victory, Emperor's will. Repeat, forever, until the Imperium ends. Or the sisters do. And the sisters will end first. That's the bet the Imperium made. That's the propaganda that runs on blood. They're the only ones in the entire galaxy who looked at their own expendability and called it holy. And they might be right. That's